a question to both of you then, because I do not have a newsletter, and I do see advice like, oh, you know, authors should have newsletters, and then
look at Annie's face when she said you don't have a newsletter.
Well, because partly it's a thing of going, what would I put in it? I just don't. Why would anyone be interested?
Yeah, let's talk about that. What things should authors put in their newsletter?
Yeah, so Annie, should I have a newsletter? Because if I should have one, then believe me, you're going to get an email from me asking me to help, asking you to help me do it. So please tell me what to your mind at least is the reason why an author should have a newsletter.
Okay, so my one caveat to, you should be where you feel comfortable and, go on social media where it suits you and where your readers are, is that you should always have a newsletter. So I it's been a matter of time for me, and just not because I have my country music life, and that takes up a lot of time, and I'm sending out.
That's why you need Annie
constantly. I just sort of think, what on earth could I put in a newsletter that I would have time to do, and also that anyone would be interested in? So, but obviously you think people are interested, or you wouldn't say every author should have a newsletter.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that you should have a weekly newsletter. That suits Rachael and it works for her, and she has something to say. So if you felt like you didn't have anything to say, then
I'm sure Sophie has lots of that, really.
Yeah. But you could even have a newsletter for the podcast. Does the podcast have a newsletter?
It does not.
No, we don't. And I know, I follow a few podcast newsletters, Friends and Fiction, which is a great. Yep. Actually, it's one of the few Substacks I actually pay for. And also the Rom-Com Pod in Australia has a great Substack where they, list any books that they recommend during the newsletter and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I find the most, for authors that don't really want newsletters, there's a couple ways to go about it. There are authors that only will post out on a release day. And I think that that's pretty common, but, maybe it might feel to some people like that's a bit transactional, so they don't want to do that.
That's what I always feel like you just buy my book, that's all I care about, isn't it?
Yeah, so if you don't want to do that, I would suggest a lot of authors that I work with are just on the quarterly newsletter. So they just do it seasonally, and they might and again, I guess, Sophie, it comes down to your audience. What kind of posts do you notice that they interact with most on your Instagram and your Facebook? Having themed newsletters where you have a certain section each time, that's really helpful. So I've just scheduled my first Substack monthly newsletter for tomorrow morning, so I'm so excited. I've got a baby Substack. You got to start somewhere, right? Yeah, it's Virtually Annie, and it's author design and branding.
I'm already following you. I've started following you when you began Substack.
So there's only 40 followers. I didn't bring a list across. I had an old list that had a couple hundred on it, but it was so old and archived. I thought, I don't want to bring that. I just want to start afresh. So it's just like a little baby Substack at the moment. But the way I thought about the newsletter was, what things are my audience interested in? So if my audience obviously is authors, then, they know that they're going to be coming to read that for a design perspective. So I've just kind of I have a little intro section. This is probably a fairly similar format that a lot of the authors follow. I have a little intro section that it has some personal stuff in there. So for mine, it's just, I actually themed it as well.